All right. Last question. My team has missed our last 2 deadlines. I want to take ownership, but I'm not sure how.
It's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. And look, you have to be effective. We talk about there's only 2 measures that matter, and that's effective and ineffective. Are you effective? Are you accomplishing the mission? And if you are, figure out a way to become even more effective. If you're ineffective and you're not accomplishing the mission, then you got to figure it out. You got to take ownership of that. You got to solve that problem. And so if your team isn't getting the job done, you can't tolerate less than that. As a leader, you have to drive those standards. I learned pretty early on that in the SEAL teams, there's some strong personalities there, which is awesome. That's one of the great things about the SEAL teams. And there's always this tension between people have their mind, we should do it this way, or we should do it this way, or we should train this hard, or we should focus here or there. And that's awesome. You have some incredibly talented, great guys, as we've just talked about. But as a leader, you have got to maintain the standards. And there are standards that just cannot be compromised. You've got to push hard. You've got to drive that performance. You got to set the tone for that. And if you don't do that, no one's going to do it. So it's not what you preach. It's not the words that you say. It's not the email that you sent. It's not the banner that you created to put on the wall or the PowerPoint slides that you built. It's actually what you tolerate. It's the performance that you see. And if it's substandard, you got to push again, and you got to push again. You got to set that bar high. Now, that being said, you can't drive your team into the ground. You have to lead them. You can't be a slave driver. You can't destroy your team. You can't be overbearing. But for those things that really matter, pushing performance to the next level, you have got to set that standard. And I think that's what makes truly the best military units, the best teams out there great. It's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate.
And with that, one thing I like to think about when I hear about standards and what you're going to tolerate, don't just think about your team. You got to think about yourself. You got to think about raising the bar on yourself. You got to think about what you're going to tolerate from yourself and how you can raise that bar and raise that standard and get better with everything you do, and thereby lead by example so that your team becomes the example. And with that, I think we'll close it out. That was a long haul on the podcast. I wanted to say thanks to everybody that's been tuning in and listening to the podcast. It's been amazing getting all the feedback. Thanks, obviously, to my brother here, Leif Babin, for coming on. I know he'll be on again. If anybody out there wants to continue these conversations out there on the interwebs, you can connect with us on Twitter. I'm at Jocko Willink. Leif is at Leif Babin. And of course, as you know, Echo Charles is at Echo Charles. Thanks for leaving reviews of the podcast and of the book on iTunes and Amazon. That is very helpful to us, so we know how we're doing. And most of all, for everyone that's out there in your little chunk of the world, listening to our little chunk of the world. Thanks for getting out there and for getting after it. And so, until next time, this is Jocko, Leif, and Echo. Out.